When I think of Halloween, I can't help but look back. Because it's not an experience I really indulge in anymore. If I'm being honest, it's pretty much a pained mix of commercialism with a liberal schmear of unpaid therapy on top. You see, I know people who wait all year for one night they can play dress up and unleash that part of their ids or shadows they've been repressing since childhood. Since the good old days of door-to-door bedsheet ghosts and pajamaed supermen and Little League vampires with waxed teeth. That's what we lost on all those quests for sweetness in the dark. Innocence. And sometimes, the dark will come to meet you there. And not with candy, but with dead eyes and something sharp. And a message. I think I dressed up every October 31st from 2 until 22. I had a good run. I remember the green-faced witch with cartoon wig and broom, which definitely raised some conservative gender eyebrows in the 70s. There was the Lone Ranger knockoff with dollar store mask and cap guns, and the Robin Hood with eyeliner, goatee, and arrows made of straws. Then I got older, and I was shivering in a trench coat, hiding nothing but short shorts and a sign around my neck that said, "Boo!" exclamation point. Then there was the authentic Freddy Krueger mask, fedora and red-black sweater, and working glove. Pricey as hell at the time, but you'd be surprised how many college chicks had a fetish for serial killers. And one of the last ones was a homemade Harvey Dent Two-Face getup. I dipped half a Salvation Army suit in black dye, wore mismatched shoes, buzzed half my hair down, and got a makeup pro from acting class to do the acid burn honors on my face. I definitely should have won the costume competition that year, but those drama kids were so damn tribal and nepotistic. Still, they threw the best parties, and for the last half of university, that's where I spent my Halloweens. They were exclusive bashes, creativity on full display, and hedonistic as fuck, since drama girls had zero issues with letting their demons out to play. Sorority chicks doing the slutty nurse thing had nothing on fourth-year movement majors playing demon ballerinas in body paint and G-strings. Trick or treat indeed. Now, that shouldn't have been such a big deal even 27 years ago, because it's not like I needed to wait for some once-a-year orgy of themed near nudity. Back then, it was my last year of school, and I was making ends meet in the city of Windsor, Ontario's #1 industry that didn't involve the manufacturing of automobiles. That's right, I lived in the strip joint capital of Canada per capita. And after flushing a small fortune of $5 bills as a patron, you eventually get cozy with the staff. Then you're dating a dancer on the sly, and they get you hired as a doorman. And then you're going to their private parties and having your mind, and all else, blown, before being offered another side gig as a busboy/waiter at the men's strip club, which catered to the current ex or soon-to-be wives of the Detroit money class. Because nothing quite says class like getting your drink stirred by a 10-inch dong of questionable origin or hygiene if he's from Montreal. But we ain't here to talk about highballs colliding with lowballs, know what I mean? This is about worlds colliding. My worlds. Because that year, 1992, the hottest Halloween ticket was a secret party on the far side of town at an abandoned warehouse. Invite only, but here's the thing. I heard about it from both ends of my social spectrum. The long-term girlfriend and the drama kids, they all knew about it because some of the seniors would be doing in-character shtick as part of an immersive fright experience. And all the strippers? They knew about it too because, well, what 20-something doesn't love strippers without having to pay for them? In Windsor, peelers were the prize catch of the nightlife scene. Hot and heavy sex bombs who out-dramaed the drama kids while tending to tote the best party favors. And so it was, that night of All Hallows Eve back in '92, that 6 of us sardined into a rusty green Oldsmobile and followed a hand-drawn map to an ominous block of rebar and concrete at the city's edge. The driver was my girl's best friend who had come all the way from Stratford on the promise of a night to remember. She dressed up as a hockey goon with blacked-out front teeth, and I remember wincing from the back seat every time she took a curve in those regulation gloves. Small towns, man. My gal was beside her, preening in the rear view, adjusting the cardboard beak of her tropical bird getup. Layers of black and colored fabric draped like feathers, with yellow leggings and clawed toes. Next to her in the front was her drama school bestie in a lab coat and rubber gloves, stethoscope around the neck, and a fat tube of KY jelly in her coat pocket. Prostate doctor. Girl was ahead of her time. Now I was in the back, flanked by a 5'2" drama school twink doing an ironic Randy Macho Man Savage, and my clubbing pal Paul pulling off Dieter from Mike Myers' SNL sketch Sprockets after being assimilated by the Borg. Yes, half his face was Borgian. Resistance on this night would prove to be futile. As we got further and further away from the center of town, passing the neon marquees of Danny's and Cheetah's, those final bastions of strip joint civilization, Paul leans over and whispers, "Are you worried, man, about crossing the streams?" Ghost busting aside, I knew what he meant. Paul had been privy to countless trips across the border for all-night raves at the Detroit State Theater. Those infamous Club X jams were never my girlfriend's thing, but I insisted that dancing for hours and blowing off steam solo was essential for my mental health, quote unquote. Besides, the stripper crew always showed up around midnight, and I was hooked on that rush of watching their musclehead and biker and mafia boyfriends argue over cars and hockey and bro shit while I finger banged the missus in the balcony just above. Daring? Yeah. Stupid? Sure. But was it bad? I don't know. I don't think so. Not anymore. I had to keep those worlds separate out of psychic necessity. Honor student good guy most of the week, and debaucherous fiend the rest. I'd boast it was a Gemini thing, hey? But I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I just wanted to feel good. Or at least I wanted to feel something. I wasn't too concerned about being recognized, though. Okay, try to picture it. Black leather jacket, no shirt, ripped jeans and high Doc Martens, a stringy black wig down to my nipples, sunglasses, zombie makeup with blood dripping from my mouth, nose, and eyes, and a blend of spirit gum and poster putty to make it look like a dozen rusty nails were lodged in my exposed neck and chest. Tonight, I was a dead Ramon. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. Oh, I want to be sedated. The car nosed through an open section of chain-link fence crowned in razor wire, and we skidded to a stop on a patch of uneven gravel. With the car turned off, it was dark. We were out beyond Windsor's street lamp zone and in the heart of some Lynchian industrial wasteland, everything a crumbling mausoleum. The only light offered was a sliver of moon and ominous sparks from Devil's Night fires across the river. Then one of us spotted rhythmic flashes on the third floor of the warehouse to our left, and the bass thump broke the silence. A pulsing red heart beckoning through the darkness. We clambered across some mounds of dirt and found the entryway. A thick steel door flanked by some no-neck tat boys, back when tattoos were a warning and not an invitation. We showed our copies of the map, got stared down, and then frisked. They weren't looking for contraband. Hell, booze and drugs were the point of these things. They were checking for hardware. I stood my ground when one of the gorillas told me to ditch the rusty nails. You see, I was a big boy back then, and made it clear where those nails would end up if he reached for them again. Look at me, brother. I got nothing to lose. I believed it enough that everyone believed it. Pushing fear was a drug like no other, and I've been a certified junkie for a while now. Like I said, I was chasing a feeling. They waved us through into a cramped waiting area at the bottom of a long flight of concrete stairs. Partygoers dotted the steps in various states of costume and sobriety. We pulled out a communal 40 of gin and a 2-liter bottle of 7-Up, cracked open the plastic cups and did some sloppy pouring en route to the main event. I didn't recognize anyone we passed on the climb, which made me wary. It wasn't because of the masks or the makeup or even the dim light from dangling bulbs. You see, I know vibes, all right? I know the energy of friends and family or of lovers and workmates, and especially those who do not hold me in high regard. I learned to read that shit from years of self-preservation, which is why I'd snag the seat with its back to the wall and make detailed notes of potential threats and exits and weapons. You rack up enough after-school beatings and backroad ambushes and promises of permanent harm from scorned lovers, you'd start using horror movies as research too. Techno beats swelled as we reached the top and then squeezed and pushed and excuse-me'd our way down a drywall corridor punctuated with fist-sized holes, and then through a wooden door hanging on a single hinge. The payoff, as it were? Maybe 60 to 100 people in clumps around a gray, low-ceilinged room, cordoned off in imaginary zones by cement pillars and wooden studs. The walls, they were scratched and bare, or ripped open to expose pipe and wire guts. The only attempts at decoration were some floodlights and strobes by the makeshift DJ booth, and what appeared to be a real skeleton hanging in the far corner. Happy Halloween. And with that, we plunked down in a circle by one of the pillars and drank. The music was loud, so we didn't talk much. Just nods and eye rolls, raised cups, and shared cigarettes as Nine Inch Nails and Mitzereb punished our ears. I went to the John a few times, I think, as much to scope the room and make my presence known as preen and take a piss. I even got startled by the mirror, which I took as a good thing. This holiday, it used to be about dressing up and scaring the demons away, right? Might as well start at home. I remember doing a lap of the room and feeling strange. Like people were suddenly making an effort not to look at me. Like if they ignored me hard enough, then I ceased to exist. Like old people and amputees, like the diseased and the homeless. I tried chatting up a group of performers who were now full on and doing mock vampire orgies and riffs on Michael Jackson's Thriller, but I was ghosted. By all of them. I stumbled back to the crew, people parting on my path like magnets with the same pole. I sat down, annoyed, and made a big point of calling out some hawk-nosed theater punk chatting up my girl. Now, I didn't know him from Adam, but he turned slow and stared at me with these piercing eyes, and a smile slid across his face like a razor on a cow's throat. My teeth clenched and my guts went hot, but before I could raise a finger, he passed me a joint. He just held it out to me and nodded his dumb head and kept grinning that Joker grin like some sick dare. And my friends, they were looking at me like I was the biggest asshole on earth for even considering violence, even though I knew something was off. But okay, fine. Fuck it. I hit that shit hard. Our eyes locked the whole time, making sure to slobber on that roach extra thick before passing it back. He took it, stubbed it on the ground, said something to my girlfriend with his hand on her shoulder, stood up, and wandered off. Everyone watched me exhale, all tense and silent, and I couldn't help myself. I shouted, "What?" which made them all jerk back, shaken by my clear punctuation on the message. That's right. Be afraid. I shut my eyes then for a few minutes and felt the screaming guitars and robot drums break into me. I held it in there, all that sound and fury, and felt it pace and snarl and rattle the cage, howling to be free, and I said, "No, you feel too good. You are mine, all mine." But that stuff, that thing, that force, that feeling, it just laughed at me. And suddenly, I felt small. I was so small and scared and on the verge of being devoured by something. So I opened my eyes. These were not my friends anymore. These were my fears made flesh. The sissy boy yearning for manhood. The hipster tin man, clever and heartless. The small town, small dreams loser. The doctor whore destined for disease. And the sweet dumb thing, loving the beast they think they deserve. The room spun as I stood and ran to the bathroom. I think I heard shrieks as I yanked open the door and tried forcing myself past a half-naked couple fucking on the toilet. Gin and bile filled my mouth as I caught sight of myself huffing in the piss and shit and cum-stained air. I froze as the lights and the song and the thing in the mirror all screamed at me, and I tried screaming back, but only wet things came out. And the next thing I know, these big hands are pushing me through the crowd and people are pointing and gasping and laughing, but I don't know at what, and I try calling for my friends, but the wrong sounds come out, and then I'm shoved out the wooden door into the hallway, and I reach for someone, for anyone to hold on to, but they're scared. And then I see the sharp-faced guy, the one who gave me the joint, and I shamble towards him, and he grins like he knows, and then taps some girl in a cat suit and devil horns, and she turns and stares a hole right through me, and I think, is that the one I stood up after anal, or the one who had the miscarriage? And I try to reach out my hand, but feel another push hard on my shoulder. And I trip, and then I'm falling, and I'm screaming, and I'm falling, and there are screams and stares and falling, and... It's black now, and I think it's cold. I'm not sure. I don't hear much of anything. It all seems so very far away. I open my eyes. I can just make out the shape of a person. 2 people. Girls. I can't focus. Can't follow anything with my eyes. I am stuck here. I think I'm on the ground. Outside. And they look worried. One asks the other, "Is this guy dead?" I try to say no. An emphatic and desperate and defiant no. But all that comes out is air in a hiss and a rattle. They shriek and run off, and now I only see clouds. Dark, dark clouds moving to smother the moon. How long have I been here? Why can't I move or feel anything? Am I paralyzed? Why isn't anyone helping me? Please. I don't think I can hold on much longer. I am lost in the dark of the clouds and my thoughts for a very long time before I hear it. A shuffling and a scratching. Something on the gravel. Something close. Closer. It's right there. I can hear it, a low, gurgling breath. Another step, and I see him. Another step, and I finally feel the cold. "Hey, buddy," he says, hovering over me, all beard and broken teeth and dead eyes. "Got a smoke?" I still can't move. Can't run or cry for help. I'd piss my pants if I could, at least I'd be warm, but this thing of a man bends down and reaches into my coat and pulls the pack of Belmont Milds from my breast pocket like he knows. He plants one between his cracked and sore-covered lips and lights it with the other hand. I don't see a lighter or a match. Don't hear a flick. But it's lit, and he's drawing on it deep. Within a minute, the cigarette is ash. He flicks it away, lights another, and bends down again, closer. His palms are blackened, sooty, and most of his fingernails are missing. They're just beds of dry blood. He puts the cigarette in my mouth, but I can't clench to hold it or to inhale. It burns my cheek as it falls, and I think the wig begins to smolder. "You shouldn't be here. This is my house. Unless you want to stay." The words ooze from his mouth, and his tongue writhes like a fat maggot, and his teeth are like corn in shit. He plucks a rusty nail from the putty on my neck, and I can't help but think, that's one. Did the others end up inside me? Is that what happened? He tilts the nail in the air and sniffs at it, bites down on it, and then slips it into his filthy brown overcoat. He smiles, satisfied, and pulls something else from the coat. Something bigger. It's long, and it's sharp, and it's flecked with crimson on a ragged edge. "Here, brother. You can do better," he says, twisting the bread knife in the moonlight. For a moment, the whites of his eyes, I swear they swallow everything but a pinprick of blackness. The knife is over my chest now, moving up to my throat, and I start to cry. The tears, they're warm and heavy and thick with regret. I just wanted to feel something. Anything. But now I'm afraid that this is the last feeling I will ever know. I weep, and I tremble, and I shut my eyes as tight as I can. I felt a rough hand then on the back of my head, and something tugging at my arms. There were daggers of cold on my face and chest, and a voice far away like wind in the trees. You can do better. I cried out and somehow bolted upright. I was on a mound of dirt in front of the warehouse. Paul and Macho Man were pulling me up to my feet while the girls just giggled and clapped. They helped me back to the car, but let me in last because they were cold from trying to revive me. As we drove home, I checked my neck and chest for impalings, but all the nails were accounted for, except one. We stopped at an all-night pancake joint, and I reached for a smoke with my coffee, but my pocket was empty. I sat quietly for a change as they all just made jokes at my expense, like, hey, you're a TV character, a concussion can change you overnight, right? Yeah, totally. That's it. We didn't speak of the party after that. In fact, I've never shared the full truth of that night with anyone. But I stopped going out as much. Barely drank anymore. Even went to couples therapy, and a few weeks later, I went downtown to collect my last checks from the strip clubs. The end of an era, so I was lost in thought when I boarded the wrong bus that followed the river out of the city. I came back to my senses near the industrial district and pulled the cord to signal a stop. When I got out, snow was falling, and a harsh wind whipped in off the water. I crossed the road and walked towards the bus shelter back, stopping when I heard a sudden clang. A figure in the alley was dropping hunks of wood into a burning metal barrel. He was wrapped in a wine and coffee-stained sleeping bag, but I could see a long brown overcoat poking out the bottom. I took a step, and an icy puddle crunched beneath my foot. The man turned. He was younger, no beard, no missing fingernails from what I could see, and, thankfully, no knife. Whatever happened that night, it wasn't real. But I was different now. That was real. So it would never happen again. I nodded, wished him well, and went on my way. Hey, buddy, he called out as I walked a little faster, and the wind sliced at my skin like a long, dull knife. You got a smoke? And that's that, children. Happy Halloween. In 2 weeks, we got a Q&A for you, live and thriving. Until then, take care, enjoy the haunted season, and I look forward to sharing more with you soon. Thanks for listening. Spread the good word.